Que pasa, amigos? What's up? I'm Lindsay here with the How to Heal podcast, and today we are branching into the new series of episodes I'm going to be releasing on the How To series. So this week, we're going to be talking about an overall umbrella of how to fix your mental health. But what it really is how to get your mindset in order, emotionally unattached, compartmentalize, and just get shit done. Because many times we're not looking at things clearly. So I'm going to go into sort of defining what I mean by mental health, because I think it can be ambiguous. And I'll give you some fixes and tools and resources. And we'll talk about some things to just look out for. When we talk about mental health, it can be very insidious. We're in a new age of allowing our power to be taken by sources that we think know better. And this has always been a thing. So it's not like we're new to learning how to harness our power and trusting ourselves and all the things. But with AI, it's just getting really heavy. And additionally, social media is really layering on another level of fog. When we go on any social media platform and we see basically what the algorithm thinks we want to see, we have curated that. And depending on how much time you've spent on it and this mental state that you've been in while you've been on the app, that information can be really skewed to not be supporting you. So that's why I say that mental health can be insidious, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's a self-perpetuating loop of information that we are intrigued to see, but maybe isn't resonating with a better part of ourselves. Something that's not supporting our highest good. When we need to look at ourselves is when we start to notice that we're isolated, or that we're getting like very extreme in our thinking, and when we're getting compulsive with our habits, whether they're good or bad. A psychiatrist I worked with one time mentioned that he had a patient, he was so proud of this patient, that she was bipolar. And they were able to work together to identify when she was having a manic episode, because during the manic episode, she was a photographer and she would take tons and tons and tons of pictures. So she would notice that the more pictures she was taking was when she was going through manic episodes, which is just sucks, to be honest, for all of my creatives out there, because when we're prolific in creativity, almost to the point where we're kind of going off the deep end, we have to be able to just reel ourselves back in. It reminds me of the heartbroken artist who just writes because they're, hurt, and they can only produce art when they're hurt. And we really want to get into a place where we don't have to be hurt to be making art. We want to really have a baseline of, okay, I show up every day in these ways because this is what's healthy for me, and I don't need this diluted muse to inspire us to be prolific in what makes us feel alive. Right? Usually when we're in a mental health place that's not so good, the first people to notice are our friends and family, the people closest to us, or anyone that's basically going to be like giving you subtle clues that you are acting in a way that's not as balanced. And listen, the best time to take care of your mental health is before you have a recognizable issue, before you have a identifiable problem. It's, again, I mentioned it's insidious because it is. It is constant ego death to be on a mission to care for your mental health. You must be able to look at yourself and be like, okay, I don't know best all the time, and I need to check myself before I wreck myself. And we have to look at constructive criticism or just the cues from our friends and family, not as an attack, but as a sign, as a warning sign to say, okay, let's do what we need to do. Let's get into looking at things the way they need to be looked at so that we can fix them from a foundational level. And this requires a growth mindset. So this mental health episode is really playing into the mindset stuff, and we're going to take it from both angles. On this podcast, I talk about, in the beginning episodes, the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and energetic pillars. That's where we start. That's where we start. So we need to get sleep. We need to eat right. You need 8 hours of sleep, and you need to not be scrolling on your phone before you go to sleep. I found this girl on Instagram who I think she's so cool. She was talking about the most impressionable time during the day for you is right before you go to sleep. So if you create a mindful practice of how you fall asleep, like saying the things that you want to say to be true, stepping into the ways that you want to be, basically positive affirmation and things that you want right as you're dozing off, your brain is going to take that as a springboard and go into those things. So loving kindness, thoughts in your heart, in your mind, in your body, relax, get off social media. Do not be scrolling on your phone before you fall asleep. No matter if your mental health is fine or not, just don't do it. That's paid real estate. Who is taking that real estate? People who are trying to get paid from you. So you're basically giving away your mental liberties, energetic, subconscious liberties to these people on Instagram who are trying to promote whatever they're trying to promote. And listening to podcasts while you fall asleep is also not a good idea, because you're taking in tons of information and your brain's not resting. So let yourself rest, guys. Meditation is also very helpful. I get it. If you're like frantic and looping and spinning, sitting down in meditation is not so easy all the time. But the number one thing that you want to do is let your mind rest. Let your mind rest. So however that looks, if it's like getting on the phone, walking with a friend, doing some art, going for a swim, changing your physical circumstances to the fact that you can forget about what's going on in your head, getting out of your head and into your heart, getting out of your head and into your body. You know, that rest is an important part of the emotional and mental regulation for you to be able to really quiet things down. In regards to food, vegetables are always very good for you and nourishing. Like anything that grows from the earth, like grains, quinoa, root veggies, potatoes, beets, carrots, stews, warming foods, like Buddha bowls. You know, you really want to eat food that's grounding, that came from the earth, that you feel nourished by. I remember I got a CSA in the city for the first time and I was like, oh, these vegetables are so cute. I had like an emotional attachment to the vegetables because they're nourishing and they're little delights on your plate that you get to, you know, celebrate and nourish your body with. So I also just want to talk about social connection, because I think that when we start to notice that we're falling off the rails is when our social connection is starting to get muddied and people are not really resonating with what we're saying, or we're not feeling the connection with others. And I'm just going to be straight up honest. When I've had situations where I've had to sort of like recluse and live a more solitary life because I wasn't well, in that time was able to count on a certain few people that I talked about in like creating the mental health safety net episode, if you want to take a look at that. But you just want to have people around you that are super grounded and helping you to get clarity on what it is that you need to do to turn your situation around. So, you know, it's not really the time when you're feeling ill to go out and be social, because most people are not going to understand what you're going through. And it is just a very sensitive time. But just be aware that when you're starting to feel really distant in social settings, that can be a cue that your mental health is going to the wayside. I was in an outpatient program and I remember having to get my life together. And one of the tips that they gave us was like, we went home on the weekend and we had like 3 or 5 things to do over the weekend, no matter how small they were. and just having a list, an accountability list of something that you can do to make yourself feel good that you're being productive and that you have a routine and that you have a habit in place that's going to take care of yourself is instrumental in really getting you into a place of accountability, responsibility, and clean mental hygiene. So those are the fundamentals. I think when we look at the mindset around, okay, I'm going to recognize that I need to surrender. I'm going to recognize that the people that love me the most are telling me that something is off, that I'm not doing as well as I should be. So I'm going to see professionals I know I need to see, whether it's physical health doctors or things that I haven't been tending to, I'm going to tend to, and things that I thought that weren't so important are now important. For example, when you meet with a therapist who is really grounded, who can look at you honestly and say, okay, like, here are some things that you can do to help yourself. You're going to stay away from social media accounts that keep us distant from what is important to us in our lives. We're going to stay away from social media accounts that make us feel frightened for our future. We're going to stay away from social media accounts that pull us from reality. That is like the biggest thing. That is such a big topic right now. I don't see like too many people posting about it, but I see enough where we're really stepping into the place where we're like, okay, like social media sucks. It's really just a selling platform. And that's pretty much how responsible people are using it. We don't need to update everyone on our kids' pictures. People who are close to us, we can create an album on our phone. We can send pictures like, we don't need to update everyone on what we're doing it's just too much. Yeah. When it first came out, it was fun to do those things, but now it's just a waste of time. We've like passed the phase of social media. So just see social media for what it is, and that is to push other people's prerogatives. So if you're going on there blindly without your guard up, you're just going in as like a victim, Again, we want to really own, what do I need to do to get out of this situation? What sort of uncomfortable things out of the ordinary am I going to do? This plays directly also into addiction. Addiction to anything, guys. It doesn't have to be alcohol or drugs. It can also be social media. It can also be food. It could also be the news. It could also be just like picking up your phone and mindlessly checking it. Currently, I'm sober. I don't have substance addiction, but I have addiction to my phone. I'll notice that when I'm not feeling well, I'll be looking at my phone way more than I should be. So then I have to set boundaries around my phone, and I have to have accountability with someone who I trust, who's grounded, who's going to hold me accountable to what I say I'm going to do around the things that don't make me feel good. We have addiction to poor mental health at times. That is our way to disassociate from this crazy world that we're living in. And we really need to have that ego death to be like, it's not working. It's too much. Maybe I'm not smoking crack and like, doing all this crazy stuff, but I'm not feeling good, and I'm doing things like little minute things that are just not supporting me. So what am I going to change to make those things feel better? What am I going to do to feel more sovereign? What am I going to do to feel more grounded? What am I going to do to make sure that I'm loving what I usually love in my life the way that feeds my soul, feeds my energy, feeds my heart? We also just have a lot of tools at our disposal. I know I just mentioned the phone, but it's a double-edged sword, but there are tools at our disposal to really... Actually, I'm not even going to go into the phone because I just feel like the phone is really a sore subject right now. I also was watching some stuff that people who wear the Apple Watch all the time, it's not good to have that electromagnetic frequency on your body all the time. And your energetic body, which I talk about in the podcast, is creating like an acclimation to an external source of an electromagnetic field. So that's like you're aligning with something else, and that could be draining your energy. So I don't want to go too deep into that, but I would just say if we're not feeling well, step away from the phone. Step away from the phone. Mental health is a lifelong commitment. we think we're doing great, we are doing great, and then we have a little bit of a relapse. And this is for everyone, guys. This is not just for people that are predisposed to mental health. This is just like any person that has lived on this earth is going to have either mental or physical points in their life where they feel sick. And, whether it's just feeling depressed or, getting cancer or whatever it is, we have to really have that ego death and knowing that there are things that we can do to get clarity and to get grounded. It is the number one way to unattach from this part of you that's like, no, I'm feeding on this. I'm looping on this. This is feeding a part of me that's like, I'm really interested in it and I want to see it. I'm getting upset about it. I'm getting excited about it. All I want to do is talk about it. And everyone around you is like, whoa, you're going off on the deep end on that. That's the time to emotionally unattach from the things that are feeding your neuroses. We have to really step away from that. The whole news platform is structured so that we can create a sense of urgency, panic, and fear. And listen, guys, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. We have to start taking care of ourselves on an individual level so that we can mitigate the reaction and the responses and the proper responses to when something does happen and prevent the outbursts that happen on in your car level to going and shooting a school level. That all happens on an individual level. And we have to take accountability to clean up the mess in our heads. We can't get swept away. We can't get distracted. We can't get completely inundated with junk. We have to be able to unemotionally attach from the identity of who we think that we are, that's perpetuating this loop, and rethink of new ways to get grounded, to get happy. We don't have to be so serious all the time. We really want to bring joy into our lives, creativity into our lives. And when we're so serious about things, it can be very difficult to compartmentalize, like, okay, I'm not feeling well right now and I need to do X, Y, and Z so that I can actually get better. So that's really what we're talking about today. And I think that this is timely. I think that people are just waking up, looking at their phone, putting their phone down, having a cup of coffee, looking at their phone, putting it down, going to the bathroom, looking at the phone. It's just like, when are we going to say enough is enough? Put down the phone. Put down the phone. I'm working on it. And I just wish everybody a grounded, peaceful, happy, joyful week. I will see you next week. I love you.